everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Sewing Organization Challenge. We are on week 19 and we are talking about our physical space, getting some good work habits into that space and making it a very enjoyable and efficient space to work in as we're coming to the end of our challenge. But before we get started, on this week's challenge, my name is Chris O'Neill from Sew the Distance, and I'm so happy you joined me today. So this was a really fun video to make, and what I did was I decided to take that idea of the work triangle, meaning that all of the things that you use often should be 3 to 4 feet apart. So when it pertains to a sewing room, that means that your sewing machine, your cutting surface, and your pressing surface should be within 3 to 4 feet. My initial thought going into this was that I liked the idea of things being further apart because that meant I moved more. And if you've sewn for a long time like me, you know you are sitting a lot while you sew and you don't get a lot of movement breaks. And sometimes you just get in a zone and it could be hours before you actually get up and move around. So for me, I thought, well, having the space spread out gave me those built-in movement moments, and I really like that idea. So I never thought, oh, you know what, I think I'm going to change it and do the traditional work triangle until this experiment. So let me just set you up on what I did exactly. I took 3 different methods of configuring my space, and I made the exact same block. Now this block is a block I'm familiar with. It's a pineapple block from Creative Grids. It's also a quilt block that takes a lot of cutting and a lot of pressing. So I wanted something that was really going to put this to the test and see which was the best. The first layout I used is my current layout. The second one was the traditional work triangle. And the third layout is the idea of the circle of reach, meaning that you don't have to reach real far for the things you need. That's from the book Love Your Creative Space by Lilo Bowman. I highly recommend it. I think at the beginning of this challenge I talked about the book a little bit. It's a really great book and it's super inspiring. I'll put a link below to that book. Let's get started taking a peek at how this all turned out. So to fully assess each configuration, I'm going to use 3 things: how long it takes me to complete the block, how many steps I took according to my Fitbit, and how I felt overall through the process. So this is my current situation and my current layout, which I thought was really good. But once I did this experiment, I realized that it wasn't as good as it could be. So I have the sewing machine and the ironing station across from one another. They're about 6.5 feet apart. And then I have the cutting station sort of centered in the middle. And although I thought I was really productive, after this experiment, this was not my favorite layout, and I will be changing it moving forward. So for this setup, it took me 36 minutes to do this block, and I accumulated 166 steps. Again, I thought that I really liked this, but I didn't. You can see I'm kind of tilted in my chair, which wasn't a really good posture either for sewing. So I learned a lot through recording and looking at my setup here. So let's move on to the next one, which is the work triangle, the traditional work triangle. So I moved things closer, as you can see, and I have it in a traditional work triangle where each station is 3 to 4 feet apart. And I really, really like this. You can see my posture's a little bit better, although I still have to work on that. But I can move about freely, and I really was surprised at how well this worked. I ended up taking 133 steps according to my Fitbit, and it took me 31 minutes to complete the block. Now I think it's important to note that I could have just been getting better at making this block, but I also had made a few test blocks prior to recording, so I was already in the groove of making this block. I think that this is pretty accurate, but I suppose there could be some speed differences because I am kind of in the groove of making them. Next, let's take a look at the circle of reach layout, where everything is much closer and I don't have to get up from my chair at all. So as you can see, everything is right beside me and I just have to twist and turn to get to each station. I loved this too. And surprisingly, my posture was better and my productivity was better. So this brought me down to 21 minutes to make this block, believe it or not. And I felt like I got a little bit more exercise, even though I only got 16 steps. However, the twisting really felt good and I felt more energized with this layout. which really surprised me. The table I use for cutting is just a flimsy table that folds up. I think if I had a better, more sturdy table, I would have really loved this. Another thing that was really awkward was the ironing board and using the iron because I was afraid of burning myself. So that took a little bit of getting used to, but I really could love this setup, and it's really something I want to consider if I have a big project that I'm working on that takes a lot of pressing and want to just be very productive. I absolutely would set up my room like this. So it's interesting, isn't it? I just was blown away at how beneficial this was and how it really helped me figure out the best configuration for my furniture moving forward as we design this sewing room. I hope it helped you too. That brings me to my tasks for you this week. The first task is to be brave and have somebody record you sewing, because my posture was terrible and I need to work on that. I also need a new chair. So the chair I'm currently sewing in was my mother-in-law's. It's probably at least 40 years old and it's what she used to sew with, but honestly it's uncomfortable and it really doesn't fit my body at all. So I need to replace that chair. So that was the first thing I noticed. The next one was my posture and just my whole form as I sewed. It was beneficial to me to see that. You don't have to publish the video. Nobody else has to see it, but have somebody record you so you can see exactly how you sew and what you need to improve on. It's really important. The next thing I'd like to encourage you to do is to try these different layouts and see what works best for you. For me, I really love the work triangle. I was surprised. It didn't really make a difference with my steps and I felt better sewing. So I definitely will use that. And if I have anything that I need to crank out a whole bunch of quilting or blocks or whatever, I am absolutely doing the circle of reach technique because I was super productive with that, although I didn't get a lot of movement. The last thing I am going to encourage you to do is let me know how it worked out. So either on Instagram, Facebook, or on here in the comments, or even email me. Let me know what you think of these different techniques, because I know we're all different and different things work for us. So if you really explore these and try them out, it's going to serve you so well for the rest of your life as a maker, and it will take all that guesswork out. And if you were like me and thought that you'd get more movement with having things spread out, it really wasn't that big of a difference. As always, thank you for joining me today. Please consider subscribing. It is free to subscribe and it really helps me out. I will see you next week for week 20 of our organization challenge. The last week in July, I am going to cover all the stuff I missed, because when I was going through my notes, I realized I missed talking about thread, back here, my organization of my thread, and bobbins and batting. So if there's anything else I missed as far as stuff, please let me know, because that last week in July is going to be the week I cover those things and what I do with those items. Have a great week. Make sure you take some time to sew, and I'll see you soon. Bye.